Okay, let's start. So, I'll speak about biometrics in smartphones, the technology supported by and integrated in smartphones. Of course, the use case of, or the case of Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and so on. They use biometrics, and I would like to show some weakness on this in this technology, and the way natural security, the technology, and natural security, the alliance, can be the next step for the mobile payments based on biometrics. And I'll conclude with smartphone versus connected objects. Just one slide or two slides on that. So right now, fingerprint is the only technology integrated in the smartphones. Most of the time, face recognition, voice recognition are integrated through applications or in the operating system like Android, but not directly with the components integrated inside the smartphone. So now, right now, we will discuss only about the fingerprint technology embedded in smartphones. That is to say, Touch ID and Apple Pay, and Samsung Pay with their fingerprint technology as well. So other handset manufacturers, they integrate also fingerprint technology, but the most advanced are Apple and Samsung. So the integration of fingerprint sensors in smartphones doesn't allow large sensors. So as you can see, the sensor is very small. So it's not possible at all to use minutie as matching or to enroll inside the smartphone. It's mandatory to use proprietary technology. And all of the manufacturers, they use proprietary technology based on pictures and processing of pictures, not minutie. And this will stay in that way for a long time, except if they develop a technology to have a large sensor under the screens, which exists but is not used. So, for sure, security cannot rely on the biometric sensors of the smartphones. So you have just to see the Chaos Computer Club test. Each time you see a new version or a new biometric sensor in a mobile phone, they crack it within 1 week. It's very simple to crack it. That's why security cannot rely on that. And if you see all the services using Touch ID or even PayPal with Samsung, is not really security that is used with the biometrics. It's only convenience. So let's see with the Apple Pay and Samsung Pay. So Apple Pay, now this slide is not updated, of course, because now we have the new models of Apple iPhones and Samsung Galaxy. But this is the same. It's you have the mobile, the system of the payments plus biometrics, and something more specific for Samsung is the MST technology, which is used in English MST, which is used mainly in USA. That means you simulate the max stripe reading of a card. But for sure, market for both payment solutions is very small, because it's only with the last version or the last models of smartphones you can use it. So it's iPhone 6 or 5 and so on. So it's handsets very expensive. And as I mentioned before, the security of Apple Pay or Samsung Pay doesn't rely on biometrics, but on tokenization. That means this is the risk management offered by the tokens that you can build a security strategy, not on the biometric itself. That means if you want to use the tokenization system solution developed by Visa, MasterCard, and the banks with another kind of authentication, another kind of yes, quite authentication. You can use codes. You can use QR codes, you can use everything else, but biometrics is not mandatory. So what is interesting with Apple Pay and Samsung Pay is the pro is that there is no impact on the merchant system. They can use the NFC readers they already have, or the MST readers they already have in their keyboards or POSes. No need to have a specific end user device. That means you can use your smartphone. Of course, it's expensive smartphones, but you can use it. You don't need, if you have the right model, you don't need to buy something else. This is interesting. And the last thing is it's backed by banks. That means Apple Pay and Apple and Samsung, they didn't define a new payment solution. They use the payment specs developed by Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex, and so on. But we have seen this last weeks some figures out of the market. Mainly, you can have them from on the payments website. They have a specific service following the usage or the usage of Apple Pay, and they mentioned, it was last week, I guess, that few months ago. A user with Apple Pay activated and in a shop with Apple Pay activated as well, few months ago, more than 50% of the card holders or the iPhone holders use Apple Pay. This last weeks, only 1/3 of the people they use Apple Pay. We know people in USA they activated Apple Pay on their iPhone, and they think that if you have a queue behind you, you have people behind you waiting to pay, you have to get your iPhone to place the finger here. So the user experience is not bad, but it's not that good because you still have to hold your thumb on the sensor. So it's if you have the 6 Plus. It's not so easy to hold the iPhone very firmly, so it's not that cool. And sometimes they have some troubles in the NFC reading or in the biometrics reading. Not a lot, but so they are. So there is not a real added value for end users. There is not a real added value for merchants to promote and to continue to use Apple Pay. This will be, I guess, the same with Samsung Pay. It's interesting. It's something that is really good for natural security if we consider the biometric technology, because they evangelize the market. Now there is no issue when we present natural security technology using biometrics and so on. We have no more questions regarding biometrics and so on, or security of the biometrics, because now, or the usage of the biometrics, because now we are all comfortable with, thanks to these players. So, in order to have a real growth and real usage of mobile payments, we need to give a real added value to the end users, at least to the end user. Of course, it's better with the merchants, but merchants, if you say to them, okay, you have your systems, you have NFC and so on, you can continue to use them, you have just to open a new payment mean, it's okay. But for the end users to be incentive to use a new payment system, they need to have a real added value. And maybe it's time now or in the next few years or few months, to go to the next level, like a game. We are now 2 years long with Apple Pay, so mainly USA, starting in UK, but now we have the feedback from these markets. Now maybe it's time to prepare the next level, and using a user experience, a new user experience, and the one introduced by natural security could be a good thing. That means the N3. The N3 is very simple and we will present later on in details the natural security specs and the concept. You put the reading of the biometric outside. That means you put the reading of the biometric, the capture of the biometric fingerprint, or the fingerprint, outside of your device at the merchant checkout. In that case, you have just to place the finger on the sensor, and you communicate with your smartphone through not the NFC, because if it's NFC, you have to tap your smartphone against the reader. No, you have just to go through BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy. And in that case, you have a full hands-free user experience. Hands-free, meaning you do not manipulate something. You have just to place the finger on the biometric sensor and nothing else to do. And it's a real added value, first for merchants. First, because if you are familiar with the Natural Security Alliance, you know this chart. The chart where you have the payment, the average payment time in Europe for the chip and pin transaction. So there is no scale, but it's 45 seconds. And with natural security user experience, that means you have just to place the finger against on the biometric sensor. It's 5 seconds, up to 5 seconds. So you gain 40 seconds per transaction using an hands-free user experience. And you can imagine the gain for merchants. If you consider Walmart, Carrefour, Auchan, or any big retailer, if you time is money for them, because the checkout time is not a selling time for them; it's a wasted time. So if you gain a few seconds in average per transaction, they have a good return on investment. The figures here, this chart is for the 10,000 merchant, 10,000 POS merchant. In France, and if let's assume they have 100% of card transaction based on the user experience developed by Natural Security, they will gain quite 12 million a year. 12 or 1? Wait. 12 million euro a year in gain. Of course, they will never reach that 100%. We would like, but they will never reach that. But even if they have 5% of transactions with a hands-free user experience, they gain 0.6 million euro per year. So they have an interest to go to this technology. Of course, to reach a good level of, a good volume of transactions, they need to have a lot of people in front. So a lot of end users using that technology. So that's why for individuals, we need to use smartphone, something they already have in their pockets, or smartphone. And for individuals, of course, if they have nothing to manipulate, nothing to initiate, and so on, they have just to place a finger, for sure they will use it. And this is something that we already experienced 2 years ago with the French experimentation. And for banking industry, it's interesting because now they can have some controls on the system at the checkout of the merchant. They can say, okay, now we can specify some level of security and so on for the biometric reader, as they do now with EFT POS and the cards and so on. But there is some consequences using a third system to capture the biometrics. The consequences is you need first to upgrade the merchant system, for sure. But we have seen just before that there is an interest for merchants to upgrade their system. We discuss a lot with Auchan or other retailers inside the alliance, and of course, if they have the guarantee that they will gain time over the years at the checkout, they will upgrade. It's not an issue. And now, as we have not only one system but several systems to do this transaction, we need to specify something between, to have a standard between the reader and the personal device. So it's an open interface, plus, of course, something certified, because if you have a provider from, let's say, Engenico will start to provide biometric readers inside their POS. They have to certify this and to use a standard between the POS and the personal device or the smartphone of the end user. Again, here, natural security user experience. It's a good candidate for the next level of the mobile payments at the checkout. Natural Security Alliance, it's a good candidate for this because we have specifications and we have certification process. And we are open to discuss with third associations like EMVCO and others, or card schemes. So, small introduction to just to summarize the how we can how the standard is working. We have a biometric fingerprint most of the time, the reader at the checkout of the merchant or any other point of services. So it could be ATMs and so on. And in between the reader and my personal device, I can use BLE. I may use other systems, but this is something that so far we work mainly on BLE and not on GSM and so on. This is not something that is futuristic because first we have 8 years behind us working on that, and we see that there is good opportunities now to develop this standard on the market. And we have another interesting fact is the Apple, they have a patent pending, not agreed, I guess, not yet, using this concept, which is interesting. We don't know if Apple, when they have patents, they do not develop solutions around all their patents. But this is interesting because now Apple is thinking about capturing the biometrics outside of the iPhone. And for sure, we always have the same questions when we present natural security technology. Oh, you have to upgrade the merchant system. Yeah, we have to upgrade the merchant system. Apple will develop that. If they develop that, of course, I'm sure that everyone will love the solution from Apple. We have the question at natural security. We know that Apple is thinking about that. So, and if one day they develop the solution, everyone will love that solution, for sure. So, this is a global picture of the assets of the Alliance, certification process, specs, guidelines, and the big investment from the initial members inside this Alliance. Now, just quick comparison between the connected objects and smartphones. Connected objects, we can summarize that. Why do we need connected objects is because not everyone wants to support everything in one smartphone. Some first they do not have not all the people they have the last model of iPhones or Galaxy S. So they need to have something else maybe. So connected objects could be a good companion for that. And some other people, they don't like to have everything in one single device. So they may prefer to go to a specific device, a device with one function, the biometric authentication, with a large sensor, with a very good level of security. And in that case, there is a place for connected objects. And in addition, the members developing products around our specs, they develop, so UINT, thanks to be here, Trust Designer and CertGate, I guess. I forgot one. Okay. They develop mainly connected objects. And now we are working on the smartphone because the issue and the concern to support or to be supported by smartphones is to find the right way to securize the storage of my biometrics inside the smartphone. as we do not have access to some secure components like the TEE or the secure enclave or the secure element and so on, or the SIM card, we can have access, but telcos, MNOs are still difficult to convince. We have a working group working on trying to find the right solution to securize the storage of the biometrics inside the smartphone. Even if we are not a security alliance, we do not define the security levels. We will define the specs for that, but we need to have some possibilities to store securely the biometrics inside the smartphone. This is something that will be ready in the next few weeks, months. It's the pace of the of alliances. And just one case developed by Trust Designer, I mentioned it. Yes, just to mention the UINT project, they developed a microSD card that could be inserted in smartphones with microSD slots. Even microSD slots are tending to disappear to go to the cloud, or inside a connected object. This is another approach from Sesame Touch. So let's imagine we have an iPhone with all the components related to the new services like Apple Pay. So they have passbook, or is no longer from today. Is no longer passbook. Is wallet, the Touch ID, NFC, and secure element. So you get out of the iPhone what is really specific to this service. You put it in a dedicated object, so it's not the real object that Trust Designer or Sesame Touch, now it's the same, are developing. You place that in a specific object, and now you are compliant with through BLE, with all BLE compliant handsets. So it's no longer restricted to iPhone. It could be the old version of Android phones and so on. And more than this, you can use it with other internet-connected devices like tablets or laptops. So you have, of course, an application to manage this companion, this device. And on the other side, you can use. So this is something that Sesame Touch is developing. It's NFC for the merchants, which are only NFC, to have an Apple Pay-like user experience, and the BLE for the merchants that soon will upgrade their systems for the payment. So inside the object, you have just the specific components you cannot find in all smartphones. That's it. If you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. If Crystal, UINT, Vialink, Natural Security, who else is there? Okay, I answer later on. Maybe we can go ahead with with other presentation.